Ever think about like what actually make sure that medicine you get from the pharmacy is actually safe and effective?
Right.
Or the food you get at the grocery store isn't going to make you sick?
Yeah.
Today, we're diving into the world of quality, guidelines, and standards in the food and pharma industries.
Yeah.
It's kind of like understanding that intricate safety net that kind of protects us every single day.
That's a really good way to put it.
Right.
It's a world of meticulous detail and vigilance.
Yeah.
Really a lot goes into it.
Yeah, I bet.
So our mission in this deep dive is to kind of shed some light on these overlooked guardians of quality, and hopefully reveal some surprising insights into how safety and compliance are maintained in these really vital sectors.
Yeah.
So to do that, we've sifted through articles detailing these guidelines.
Okay.
And we're here to bring the most important aspects to light for you.
Absolutely. These guidelines are like the bedrock of trust in these industries.
Right.
In the pharmaceutical world, they act like super precise lighthouses.
Yeah.
Right. Guiding companies through this crazy, complicated process of manufacturing safe and effective medicines and navigating this insane regulatory landscape.
Absolutely.
And in the food industry, it's like the silent promise that what we're eating is safe. It's like, imagine the cleanest, most carefully prepared meal you can possibly imagine.
Yeah.
Like, that's the level of assurance these standards try to provide.
Right, exactly.
So let's jump right in. We'll start with those key guidelines in the pharmaceutical sector.
All right.
What are some of the cornerstones there?
Okay, well, at the very foundation, we find good manufacturing practices.
Okay.
Or GMP.
GMP.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, you might think this is just a bunch of rules,
Okay.
but it's more like the definitive instruction manual for the whole pharmaceutical industry.
Wow.
So GMP lays down the essential principles
Right.
to ensure that medicines are consistently manufactured to this really high quality. And it covers everything from like the raw materials all the way to the distribution of the product.
Okay.
It's about building quality into every single step.
Right.
Interestingly, regulatory bodies like the NSM,
Oh, yeah, NSO.
that's the French National Agency for the Safety of Medicines and Health Products,
Yeah.
they play this crucial role in establishing and enforcing these GMP standards
Okay.
for human drugs within their jurisdiction.
All right.
Think of them as the quality control gatekeepers.
So GMP is the comprehensive guide to
Right.
making sure all our medicines are up to scratch.
Exactly.
What about all the research and development that comes before the manufacturing even starts?
Good point. That's where good laboratory practices,
Okay.
or GLP of the OECD, come in.
OECD.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if GMP is the manufacturing blueprint,
Okay.
GLP is the gold standard for making sure that data from non-clinical lab studies is good,
Okay.
like ensuring that the quality and the integrity of the data is really high.
Gotcha.
These guidelines are so rigorous, they focus on the reliability of the results.
Okay.
They cover how the lab is organized, the staff, the testing procedures,
Wow.
maintenance of equipment, and the meticulous recording and reporting of every single piece of data.
That is intense.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
It's so important that the data is reliable.
Right.
And what's fascinating here is that the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, promotes these practices internationally.
Oh, wow.
It aims for a global benchmark
Okay.
in the reliability of the science that underpins drug development.
So it's about making sure the science itself is like sound and trustworthy.
Exactly.
Right. Now, once a drug is developed, how do we know exactly what's in it
Okay, good question.
and that it actually meets the required standards?
So that's the role of pharmacopoeias.
Okay.
Think of these as the official rule books that define the quality criteria for drugs.
Okay.
They specify standards for a drug's purity, its potency,
Right.
how effective it is, its
Right.
overall safety.
Okay.
They detail the composition of the drug, the characteristics of the active substances, and the quality standards for the final pharmaceutical product.
Wow.
Pharmacopoeias are vital for the whole pharmaceutical ecosystem,
Okay.
from the companies that manufacture the drugs to the control laboratories that test them, the regulatory authorities that oversee the market, and even the healthcare professionals
Wow.
who prescribe treatments. It ensures a common language of quality across the board.
Okay, so we have the manufacturing guidelines, the research standards, and the drug quality definitions.
Yeah.
But how do we actually ensure that the processes involved in making these drugs are consistently reliable?
Good question.
Right.
So that's where validation guides step in.
Okay.
Consider them the architects of reliability.
Okay.
These guides lay out the principles and the best practices for making sure critical processes like the manufacturing steps, the computerized systems that control them, even the analytical methods used for testing are consistently performing as expected.
Okay.
And they need to meet those required quality standards.
Right.
A good example is the Guide to Validation of Computerized Systems.
Dédiée.
Yeah, which is championed by the International Society for Pharmaceutical Engineering, ISPE.
ISPE?
Yeah.
Okay.
So these guides are super crucial for preventing errors.
Right.
And making sure every batch of medicine is of that same high quality.
So these guides are like the quality assurance
Yeah.
for the whole production system.
Exactly.
Now, just navigating that whole crazy web of pharmaceutical regulations just sounds like a daunting task.
Oh, it is. It is.
Right. Are there guides to help companies with that?
Absolutely. There are regulatory compliance guides,
Okay.
which you can think of as a GPS for the industry.
Okay.
They provide direction on understanding and sticking to the rules and regulations,
Okay.
which can be very intricate. They help companies figure out the specific requirements and what's expected of them by regulatory bodies,
Okay.
and ultimately avoid legal and financial pitfalls.
Right.
The European Medicines Agency, EMA,
Okay.
for instance, publishes their own regulatory compliance guide to help companies in Europe stay on track.
So a regulatory GPS, that's a clever way to put it.
It is. It's exactly what it is.
That sounds like a must-have for anyone in the business.
Absolutely.
What about the overall management of quality within a company?
Okay, that's addressed by quality management guides.
Okay.
These are practical manuals.
Okay.
They show how to implement and maintain an effective quality management system
Right.
within a pharmaceutical organization.
Okay.
They stress the importance of continuous improvement
Okay.
and provide frameworks for ensuring compliance with those quality standards.
Okay.
A widely recognized example
Okay.
that extends beyond pharmaceuticals is ISO 9001.201
Okay.
which provides a comprehensive framework for quality management systems. And that can be applied across various industries.
Right.
It's about embedding quality into the very DNA of the organization.
So it's about having a system in place that keeps quality at the forefront every day.
Yes, exactly.
What happens once the medicine leaves the manufacturing plant and heads out into the world?
Good question.
Right.
Well, that's where good distribution practices, GDP,
Right.
become crucial.
GDP.
Right.
Okay.
So GDP is focused on making sure the quality of the medicines are kept throughout the whole supply chain,
Right.
from manufacturing to the pharmacy and ultimately the patient.
Okay.
These guidelines cover proper storage, secure transportation, and record keeping.
Wow.
Here in France, the ANSM also publishes BPDG,
BPDG.
Good Distribution Practices Guidelines for Human Medicines,
Okay.
making sure that journey of a medicine is just as controlled as its production.
It's like ensuring that a delicate package arrives safely and in perfect condition,
That's a good way to think about it, yeah.
no matter how far it travels.
Right, exactly.
Finally, we often hear about ICH guidelines.
Right.
What's their significance?
So the ICH, the International Council for Harmonization, guidelines are really influential
Okay.
because they represent a global effort to harmonize all the technical requirements for registering a new drug.
Okay.
The main goal is to ensure safety, effectiveness, and quality of medicines across different regions.
Oh, wow.
These guidelines are developed through collaboration between regulatory authorities and the pharmaceutical industry from many countries.
Okay.
A prime example is ICH Q9, which focuses on quality risk management.
Right.
It provides a framework for identifying, assessing, and controlling potential quality issues throughout the entire life cycle of a product.
Wow.
So the ICH is working to create a level playing field for medicine quality globally.
That's huge.
It is.
It has huge implications for global health.
Absolutely.
Now, let's switch gears and focus on the food industry.
Okay.
I imagine there's a similar set of guidelines in place to ensure the safety of what we eat.
Oh, absolutely. Just like in pharmaceuticals, good manufacturing practices, or GMP, are a cornerstone.
Okay.
But in food, they act as the guardians of food quality.
Okay.
They make sure all stages of the process, from sourcing ingredients to manufacturing to packaging, storage, and distribution, are all carried out under really hygienic conditions.
Yeah.
In the US, the FDA has its current GMPs for food and dietary supplements.
Okay.
Adhering to these can prevent widespread contamination and foodborne illnesses.
Right.
So think of GMP as like the baseline for safe food production.
So it's all about keeping our food safe and free from contaminants at every step.
Exactly.
What's another critical guideline in the food industry?
Another crucial one is HACCP, which stands for Hazard Analysis, critical control point.
HACCP.
Yes.
Okay.
Think of it like a proactive food detective.
Okay.
It's a system where food businesses have to identify potential hazards.
Okay.
Whether it's biological, chemical, or physical.
Okay.
At each stage of production. Then critical control points are set.
Yeah.
And procedures are put in place to prevent, get rid of, or reduce those hazards to safe levels.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
The beauty of it is that it's preventative in nature.
Right.
It's about stopping the problem before it even happens.
Right.
Thereby ensuring food safety.
Right.
This was developed in collaboration with NASA.
What?
Yeah.
To make sure the astronauts' food was safe during space missions.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
Where even a minor foodborne illness could be catastrophic.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
A food detective developed for space travel. That's a fascinating origin story.
It is.
I've also seen ISO standards mentioned with food safety.
Right, so ISO 22000 is a big international standard.
Okay.
It's the framework for food safety management systems.
Okay.
You can think of it as the bodyguard of our food supply chains.
Okay.
It ensures that organizations, from producers to retailers, have systems to manage food safety risks. It provides a framework for establishing, implementing, maintaining, and continually improving a food safety management system.
Right.
A really holistic approach to safeguarding our food.
That's cool.
It is.
So it's a top-to-bottom approach to food safety across all players.
Absolutely.
What about basic, everyday hygiene practices?
Okay, those are covered by guides to good hygiene practices.
Okay.
Often called BPH.
BPH.
Yeah. These are like a personal coach
Okay.
for anyone handling food.
Right.
They give specific instructions on maintaining hygiene during every stage of food production, processing, storage, and distribution to prevent contamination
Gotcha.
and make sure the food meets the highest standards of cleanliness.
Right.
A classic example is the Guide to Good Hygiene Practices and application of HACCP principles, which is like the perfect chef's manual
Right.
for food safety.
Okay.
From a restaurant kitchen to a big processing facility.
A personal hygiene coach for the food industry? I like that.
I like that too.
Now, how do food companies actually show they're sticking to these standards?
That's a good point. That's where guides to certification and accreditation come in.
Okay.
Think of these as passports to recognition for these businesses.
Okay.
They outline the requirements for getting certifications and accreditations
Right.
from recognized bodies, which shows everyone, consumers, regulators, that the company is committed to and compliant with these standards.
Right.
A guide for how to achieve ISO 22000 certification is a good example.
Okay.
This gives consumers confidence that a third party has verified the company's commitment to safety.
So it's a way for companies to earn a stamp of approval,
Yeah,
signaling that they're committed to doing things right.
exactly.
I've also heard the term Codex Alimentarius.
Yeah.
What is that?
Codex Alimentarius is a really important international reference.
Okay.
It helps governments, food businesses, and organizations ensure food safety
Okay.
and fair practices in international food trade. It's a collection of standards, codes of practice, guidelines, and recommendations about food, food production, and food safety.
Okay.
Established by the Codex Alimentarius Commission,
Okay.
which is created by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO,
Okay.
and the World Health Organization, WHO.
WHO.
Yeah.
So,
While its standards are voluntary, they are a global benchmark,
okay.
and lots of countries use them as the basis for their own food regulations.
Right.
This helps ensure a baseline level of safety in the global food supply.
So it's a globally recognized set of best practices
Right.
that many countries align with.
Yeah.
What about the information on food packaging?
Okay, that falls under labeling guides.
Okay.
These are the instructions for getting quality badges for products, services, or even organizations.
Okay.
They define the criteria for these labels,
Right.
making sure a product with the label really sticks to those standards.
Right.
This helps with international trade by making information clear.
Yeah.
And it's vital in building trust with consumers and making businesses more competitive.
Right.
These guides cover labels for organic products, fair trade, eco-friendly products,
Wow.
each with their own specific requirements.
So those labels are more than just marketing.
Oh, yeah.
They're based on some pretty defined criteria.
They are.
Finally, what about IFS?
So IFS stands for International Featured Standards.
Okay.
It's like a complete audit guide.
Okay.
That's recognized by the Global Food Safety Initiative, GFSI.
GFSI.
Yeah.
Okay.
IFS provides a way to ensure food safety and quality in the whole chain.
Wow.
from farm to plate.
Okay.
What's really useful about IFS is that they offer different certifications for specific parts of the food industry.
Okay.
So there's IFS Food for Processing, IFS Logistics for Transport and Storage, IFS Broker for companies that trade food,
Right.
IFS Pack Secure for packaging, and even IFS HPC for household and personal care products.
Wow.
This makes it really versatile.
That's really cool.
It is.
We've covered a ton of guidelines in both the pharmaceutical and food industries.
Yeah, we have.
Now let's take a look back and see how this all came to be. Okay. What's the history of these guides?
So the earliest forms of pharmaceutical guidance came from doctors and apothecaries in the 16th century.
Oh, wow.
They started writing about medicines and their uses,
Okay.
sharing their knowledge.
Right.
Then the Industrial Revolution ramped up drug production,
Okay.
showing the need for standardized information.
Gotcha.
A big moment in the U.S. was the publication of the United States Dispensatory in 1833.
Oh.
This was the first big national pharmaceutical guide in the U.S.
Wow.
It was a crucial resource for doctors for over a century.
Wow.
It had detailed information on the medicines at the time.
So it started with information sharing.
Right.
And evolved into a national standard.
Yeah.
What happened next?
And what pushed for more formal regulations.
Right.
Sadly, the early 20th century saw a few scandals in the food and pharma industries, showing adulteration and misleading practices.
Wow.
This destroyed public trust
Yeah.
and made authorities take action.
Okay.
This resulted in the 1906 Pure Food and Drug Act,
Okay.
often called Dr. Wiley's Law.
Okay.
This law set basic standards for making and selling drugs.
Right.
Importantly, it also created the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA,
EPA.
which we all know.
Right.
This was a turning point in consumer protection.
So it was a response to public health concerns and the need for accountability.
Yes.
What about international standards?
Okay, so in the 1950s, we saw the start of international efforts in drug regulation.
Okay.
The World Health Organization, WHO, started to develop international drug standards.
Wow.
This was the start of global cooperation in making sure medicines were good.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
When did GMP become a thing?
It was around this time, the 1960s, that good manufacturing practices, or GMP, became a global standard for quality and compliance in both industries.
Both food and pharma.
Yeah. These guidelines have changed over time to keep up with technology and regulations.
So the idea of a global approach to quality started to gain traction in the mid-20th century.
Right.
You mentioned HACCP earlier.
Yeah.
What's the story behind that system?
So in the 60s and 70s, NASA worked with the Pillsbury Company.
Pillsbury.
Yeah.
Really?
To make sure astronaut food was safe in space.
Wow.
This is how HACCP was developed.
Wow.
It quickly showed its effectiveness.
Okay.
And because it worked so well for space food, it was quickly adopted by the whole food industry.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Its global recognition shows how important it is.
From ensuring astronauts are good to a global standard for food safety, that's incredible.
Yeah.
You also talked about the internationalization of standards.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about that?
Sure. Over the past few decades, we've seen a move towards making standards international in both industries. Organizations like WHO, FAO, and ISO have been crucial in developing guidelines for product safety and quality across the globe.
Okay.
Governments have started to include these standards in their own rules,
Right.
recognizing the benefits of working together for trade and health.
Right.
The FDA in the U.S. still has strict regulations,
Okay.
often matching international best practices in areas like GMP and labeling.
So these guidelines have come a long way, changing to meet new needs and global connections.
They have.
How have they helped improve quality in the pharma and food industries?
The impact has been huge.
Okay.
These guides help companies make strong quality management systems,
Right.
ensuring their products are safer, better, and follow regulations.
Okay.
They're the basis for quality in every stage.
So they provide that structure for quality.
Exactly.
What other benefits are there?
They're also really important for educating professionals.
Okay.
By explaining best practices and giving specific guidance, they help workers improve their skills and knowledge in important areas,
Okay, like what?
like manufacturing, quality control, and validation techniques.
Wow.
They help create a more skilled workforce, which leads to better quality products.
It's like continuous learning built into the industry.
It is, yeah.
What about the impact on businesses and their reputation?
So for businesses, following these guidelines is often needed to even sell in the market,
Okay.
locally or internationally.
Right.
Meeting requirements And showing they care about quality builds trust with everyone.
Right.
Regulators, healthcare pros, consumers, and partners.
Okay.
This trust is vital for a good reputation and staying in business.
So compliance isn't just about avoiding fines.
No.
It's about credibility and trust.
Absolutely.
Do these frameworks also encourage innovation?
They absolutely
Wonder
do.
how.
So while they set standards, these guidelines aren't set in stone.
Right.
They change with new science, tech, and challenges.
Right.
This actually helps innovation by giving a clear goal for improvement and pushing for new, better products and processes.
Right.
Companies always want to do better than these standards.
So it's a high bar,
Yeah.
but it shows how to reach it.
Exactly.
And then some.
Yeah, and then some, yeah.
You talked about harmonizing international standards.
Yes.
How has that affected quality globally?
Think of it like making quality the same around the world.
Okay.
International standards, like those from Codex Alimentarius and ICH, try to make quality and safety requirements the same in all countries.
Wow.
This helps with international trade,
Right.
but also means consumers get the same quality no matter where a product comes from.
That's amazing.
It is.
Who benefits the most from all these guidelines and standards?
It's definitely the consumers.
Right.
These guidelines are the main way to make sure only safe, effective, and high-quality products are sold.
Right.
They protect public health by lowering the risks from food and medicine.
It all comes back to protecting the people who use these products.
Absolutely.
You said these guidelines can also help with innovation.
Yes.
Could you explain that more?
By setting clear standards, they give companies a solid base for innovating.
Okay.
They know the rules, so they can focus on making new products and improving existing ones without making them unsafe.
Okay.
This can lead to better treatments, more nutritious food, and more efficient ways of making things.
That's really cool.
Yeah, ultimately benefiting everyone.
It's interesting how rules can actually lead to creativity.
It's counterintuitive,
Yeah. Looking ahead, will these guidelines stay the same? Or will we see changes?
Things will definitely keep changing.
Okay.
Trying to make the food and pharma industries the best they can be is a continuous process,
Okay.
like a train that never stops.
I like that.
This is reflected in new guidelines being created and old ones being updated.
So it's always changing.
Absolutely.
What are some of the things that cause these changes?
Okay, so technology is changing quickly,
Right.
and so are production methods. This means guidelines need to be updated so they can still keep products safe and good.
Okay.
Also, new risks and challenges pop up,
Okay, like what?
like the effect of climate change on food safety or new diseases affecting drug quality.
Oh, wow.
These things need new guidelines to address them.
As the world changes, so do the guidelines.
Yeah.
What about globalization?
Trying to make standards the same globally is still a big factor.
Okay.
New guidelines help with this,
Right.
making international trade easier and safer while ensuring quality is consistent everywhere.
Makes sense.
It does.
What about what consumers and the industry want?
Yeah, that's important.
Okay.
Consumers and stakeholders want more transparency, sustainability, and social responsibility from food and medicine production.
Yeah, right.
This is pushing for new guidelines that consider these ethical and environmental issues too.
So it's not just about safety anymore.
It's bigger than that now.
Right.
It is, yeah.
What role do regulations play in this?
Government rules, both local and international, are always being reviewed and changed.
Right.
New guidelines help companies understand and follow these new rules,
Right.
making sure they're doing things legally
Right.
and putting public health first.
So these guidelines are constantly being improved
Yeah,
based on a bunch of things.
exactly.
What's the main point of all these standards and rules?
It's simple. They were the basic rules for good quality and safety in these industries.
Okay.
They let companies build quality systems, follow regulations, innovate, and protect consumers.
Right.
Trying to be the best in these areas never stops.
Right.
And these guidelines are a big part of that.
Right.
They help us face new challenges and meet everyone's expectations, making sure everyone gets safe, effective, and high-quality products.
It's been really interesting learning about quality guidelines.
Yeah, it has.
We don't usually think about the safety of our food and medicine, but there's this amazing system working behind the scenes
There it is.
to keep us safe.
It really makes you think about all the work that goes into every meal and every dose of medicine.
I know.
It's amazing.
What new challenges do you think will lead to new guidelines?
That's a tough one.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you learned something.
Me too.